I just finished an amazing conversation with Peter Wood, one of my all-time favorite humans, another fellow restaurateur. We talk about all things small town, big town, and raising kids. Pete, it's so great to have you on the Napcast.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you very much for the invite. It's nice to be here.
Oh man, I think you are very special to me for a multitude of reasons. When we worked together, that was super fun. But when it comes to fatherhood, there's two things that I think about you quite often about. One is when I was like, hey, I'm going to try this dad coaching thing, I don't know. And you sent me that beautiful text that was like, in this world full of like BS coaches and all that stuff, there was no one more like legitimate that should be doing what they're doing. So I was like, oh, that made me feel so great. And the second one was when we went out for a coffee and you were trying to slowly, carefully spill the beans that you're pregnant. And I remember just being so thankful that you shared that with me. But I would like to start this podcast with you telling me your baby story when the missus gave you that test and was like, it's go time.
Yeah.
Give me what was it all, how'd it go?
Yeah, I think it was very surreal. I think most people would find a similar element of excitement, obviously. Also, just sheer, oh gosh, like this is...
God, yeah.
I think a big piece of it as well was we were trying to build the restaurant at the same time. So it was kind of like, there could be a more convenient time for sure. Yeah. But, the overall feeling was it was an exciting time. Yeah. I knew becoming a parent for Steph was super important. I personally was never one to be like, I'm dying to be a dad. I really want kids. But I knew that meant the absolute world to her. So seeing how happy she was just, that made me really happy as well. Yeah. So yeah, definitely the whole imposter syndrome. Oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Who am I to father a child?
Sure.
But all in all, very positive. Yeah. And I think over time, day by day, you're like, oh, this is terrible. This is not a good idea. This is the wrong time. I'm not ready personally. Like all those doubts and fears and whatnot are there. But over time, those thoughts and feelings sort of get swapped out for, what are we going to call this little thing? Like,
sure.
Like where are they going to sleep? And then then there's the logistics part, but then it's like, how are we going to play with them? And it all just becomes very positive and you become very excited about it. And you're looking forward to it. And those little elements of fear and doubt are still there occasionally, but not nearly as, front row as they were in the beginning. So
that's a good line to use, as front row. Yeah, because I feel like when I went through it, I just remember like it almost like put a chip on my shoulder, because I've said this before in the other podcast, where I was just so excited to be a dad. It's all I ever wanted to do. And I didn't even meet Michelle until I was 30. But I'd kind of, when I was 30, 31, or I could kind of resign myself that maybe I was just going to be single forever. Maybe I just couldn't find the right one, and maybe this dream of kids was gone. Then I finally had kids at 39, and I was like, oh my gosh, like how in the world could it be possible that I don't know anything? And this thing I want to do so much. And we were talking before we started recording about, I'm looking to do like a dad expo. And the reason for that is because there's, women have a real transfer knowledge point, right? They have lots of them throughout there. Like when they need to learn about their bodies, right? They go through PMS and these big moments in time where like they have to understand their bodies, where men, we don't really. No. We don't have like hey, you're growing a penis next week, you better learn about it. Like you just kind of go through life that way. Also, if you go through pregnancy, all the women know how hard it is and what it takes in your body and your emotional toll. So they gather around, they talk about it, they have, and we just don't do that. We just kind of like just go through life, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now baby, you got to learn all about it. It can be so shocking. But you're right, moving from front row anxiety to back row anxiety is a great. It feels nice. I feel good about thinking that way. That's great. We also talked about and what I think is a real important piece of fatherhood is mental health, like being, I don't know, keeping your stuff together, right? When you have this big impactful moment in your life, what are some of the ways that when you found out that you were having the baby and you're building the restaurant, what are some like of your like toolkit of like keeping your mental health as positive as you can?
Yeah, I think a big piece for me, and fatherhood or no fatherhood, a big benefit I discovered was a condition called pyroluria, Pyrol's disease, which a nutritionist sort of brought to my attention. So, not to go deep into that, but in answer to your question, one of the biggest things I need to do is keep on top of vitamins. So zinc, magnesium, Bs, and then I also take an antidepressant as well. So just being, very mindful of that and making sure that's in check and there's no days skipped, etc. So I think that's, for me, I've always kept that as a real important sort of piece of the puzzle. Taking time to really step back and have some space for yourself. I know it's a little hard when, you're planning with your wife and you're trying to get so many different ducks in a row, but I've always found a lot of benefit for just stepping back and having some quiet time, no phone, get near the water, whatever that looks like for you. And just, that's how I kind of recharge and can decompress a little bit. Yeah. I think that's something that's really important to me. Obviously exercise, I definitely should be exercising more than I do, but it's written in every single piece of literature that's ever been written that keeping your mental health in check, a big piece of that is physical movement, and then eating and trying to reduce your alcohol consumption. I think that's a few of those sort of, again, that's not rocket science, that's definitely out there as of points of importance. But I think just being okay with like, okay, this is going to be a turbulent time. We don't have a roadmap right now. This is going to be super bumpy, and like, it is what it is. And I think being okay with that is a big piece of the puzzle, and not having too many expectations of yourself. It's easier said than done, but realizing that this is going to be bumpy, this is going to be clunky. But it is what it is.
There's no putting the baby back.
No.
There's like, I think I've made a joke about, you find out you're pregnant and you're like, oh, like you just realize all the too lates. Like, oh, it's too late to be a doctor. It's too late to be a therapist. I have to just go start moving forward, And where you find those resources and where I come across it is interesting too. But the importance of having a good spouse, sorry, that's not the right word. The importance of having a great relationship, I think, is like the backbone of raising good babies. People, always say, "Oh, it's ever since we had that baby, things have been so hard, or it's the baby's fault," or we can kind of take the negatives in our own relationships and just pin them on the baby, like it's a baby. I mean, the baby doesn't talk to you for 2 years, right? It's not like, "Hey, Dad, this is what I need." You have to just sort of like, I think for me, realizing that your relationship is really what fosters good parenting.
Yeah.
You have a great relationship with your partner. Was that like did you like leaning on her, or did you vice versa?
Yeah, for sure. We definitely did, and Steph's has been in childcare for many years, so she understands kids, and I think had less anxiety than I did about having a child. That's for sure. But yeah, I think being honest and open, and that is hard to do because often as the husband you're to have the answers, and you don't want to bring any more stress and more angst and more worry to the table, especially when your wife's going to be feeling so many different emotions and so many different just a roller coaster of experiences that we could never properly imagine. Sure. So it is, I think, in a way, I was a little skeptical or a little reserved when trying to add stress to that. So sure. I think a little trying to pretend perhaps I'm a little more calm than I actually was. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but that was definitely my experience. Yep. And just kind of the duck on water, just very calm, but underneath you're just like, oh my God, how's this going to work? There's definitely a piece to it of being upfront and honest. And, if I did it all over again, I probably would take that more of an approach. For me, that was how
it's so interesting, right? There's no, I just find it such an interesting topic, parenting just in general, because we usually just have like one or maybe two experiences of what parenting is. Like I had my parents, that's it, right? You see other people's parents, but you don't see them day to day, like at home with other kids. You just sort of see them maybe at a ballpark or out, and you're trying to like
having fun, and it's all positive.
It's a good time, right? Yeah, you don't see how Jimmy gets in trouble versus how Jane gets in trouble, or how their mechanisms are at home or their routines, and so we just sort of like I don't know. I think it's just so important. I guess I remember you talking to me about you were kind of nervous about like being a dad. Like, what was your relationship with your dad like?
Not great.
Yeah.
To be honest. My father left when I was, early years, sort of 3 or 4. So we no ill feeling or anything like that. It just a marriage didn't work out. So I think that maybe ingrained something into me, even around the marriage piece of like, this is probably going to fall apart anyway. So
sure, that's what you know.
That's kind of maybe why I never was hell-bent on children or marriage as a whole. But, moving closer towards having a child, I was like, okay, I know exactly what I don't want to do.
Sure.
In a way. So I think that was something I'm very grateful for. Because I think you've got to find a positive somewhere.
Yeah.
And
I remember you talking about being a little nervous because your dad, you didn't have like a great role model, I guess, for dad. Do you feel like now that you've been a dad for a bunch of years, do you feel like, oh yeah, actually I do. I am pretty good at this. I am a pretty good dad.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think dads can have such different roles in the household depending on the dynamics of the family, what people do for work. I think I'm doing a good job. I think having businesses, when the kids were just around the time they were born, that was definitely a little clunky, and my time was definitely split, and I didn't sort of get to do all the things that I probably would do if I could have the time over. But, the business was just early days, and,
it demands what it demands.
It demands what it demands, 100%. So, yeah, there are a few bits and pieces that I'd definitely change. But all in all, I think we're doing a good job now, and I'm trying to be more present at home, and, at the moment not, working for someone as opposed to working for myself. I've definitely made a conscious shift to come home, try and get home at the same time, put the phone away as much as possible, and just be present as much as I can, and really, because Mackenzie's going to school this year, and that just really rocked me. I'm like, that section of life's gone. I'm like, oh my,
poof.
Yeah. So, definitely doing my best to be a little bit more present. Let's say that.
I feel it's almost feel guilty asking that question after I asked it, because there's like no one grades you as a father, right? There's not like you parent at home and you go to like someone and they say, okay, let's talk about your last week, and you got a C, good try, but look, you didn't feed them on time, they left the house with one shoe tied, and they tripped and fell, or there's so many I think because there's so many variables in everyone's relationship, there's so many, like, it's life, right? There's no way to be a perfect dad. That's just a weird concept, right?
No, and I don't think that exists.
How could it?
No, I genuinely don't think that.
Yeah.
It's just like the whole work-life balance, or there's just this kind of myth of something better, which I don't think it's there.
I think that's why I just love, I just think, for me, I love seeing when people start off with the right recipe for making babies. And I think it's just a very simple 4-step recipe. Like, do you love Steph, and does she love you? Do you want a baby, and does she want a baby? If those are all yeses, then it's going to be great, right? Like, you're going into this thing going like, okay, we're ready for the challenges. And then that way you can kind of giggle when it's like 3 a.m. and the baby's crying, and you're like, we both agreed on this thing. Okay, I got this one, instead of like, oh, you wanted this baby, you go get that baby.
Yeah.
I think it really just makes the whole process a lot more enjoyable, because I guess I always marvel at everyone has such different dynamics, different situations. And it's the sort of thing where you can't just drop, your words of wisdom that worked for you in your household could be completely different than somebody else in their situation. So
yeah, and I think that's a big thing to touch on, because so many parents will just be getting advice from their parents, the in-laws, friends, Uncle Ronnie, and everyone's just trying to, oh, this is what you should do. I think that's not great, and that can become very conflicting of who do I turn to for advice. So, when you said that you were getting Truedad off the floor, I was like, that makes a lot of sense to have someone that's a third party. It's not someone that's trying to do right by you as a friend or a family member. It's someone that, like, okay, I've studied this, I've lived this, these are my experiences, I think this could help, without emotion. I think that's, really important. I think that's something that a lot of men could really use. Everyone that I spoke to that I was that I mentioned I was coming here, I told them about the business, and they're like, yeah, like that makes a lot of sense. You've got a coach for pretty much everything else in your life. But when it comes to dads, it's like, who do you sort of turn to? You're the one to sort of put the face on, be good with rolling with the punches. And there's a lot of unknowns, and there's a lot of, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing too much? Am I doing too little? Like, and it's also something that maybe you're not even going to talk to many friends about because you don't want to sound like negligent as a father.
Yeah. It's kind of like, you have all the opposite of the feelings you want, right? You're like, all of a sudden I'm insecure. I don't want to tell somebody like, who do I tell? Like, man, I've had a really bad week being a dad, or I'm really not bonding with my kid for some reason. I don't know. Like, I think that's why I find it so interesting. Like, the most important thing in life, raising another human, giving another human being a chance for all the things like you said, right? Like, I know what I don't want to do, and you understand that there's going to be pros and cons to that. There's no way that you're going to raise your child without them saying, oh, Dad, I never told you, but this was like the worst thing ever when you did this to me. Now I'm scarred. Like, you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I thought you loved it when I picked you up and squeezed you. Now you just feel like separation anxiety. Like, what?
Yeah.
So like, there's no way to do it right. But I think there's just so little, because we don't grow up that way, right? We don't go for beers and talk about what it's going to be like to be a dad. So it's not something that just kind of like guys do. And then all of a sudden you're like stuck with this situation and all the guilt and doubt you have. And like, how do you, like,
I think it's a knee jerk to chat to your friends about the good things.
Yeah.
And, Mackenzie and Ledger aren't at an age where they're playing sports or, making huge achievements, but they're writing, coloring in really well. Like, those sorts of things are cool.
They're in the lines. Let's go.
And like, you talk about those things with friends, but I think the more nitty gritty stuff in the beginning, it's kind of like, who do I talk to about this?
No.
Who could give me some advice that's that I align with, perhaps, and someone that I respect, and someone that's also giving me advice, and not just advice that they're trying to give a friend because they're trying to do right by you. So
I think that's why I stick to the fundamentals, because when I was writing the book, I'm going to talk to people about this very sensitive thing, I realized that I wish I just had someone, because I had an amazing dad. Like, my dad was like an absolute angel, just a lovely human being. But even through all of that, he never once sat me down and said, hey, let's talk about what it's like when you have a baby. Or like, hey, this is some of the stuff I went through when we first had you guys as kids, But because everyone's situation is so different, that's why I'm like, okay, well, the fundamentals apply to everybody. Like, it's going to be really important you talk to your spouse a lot more than you do now. No matter what, to like whatever degree you're doing it now, you got to talk more, right? Because you're going to be talking about this baby all the time. And your routines are going to change. You're going to have all this adjustment in your life. If you're not talking, then heads up, it's going to get very difficult. Or giving yourself grace when you have a baby, because you're going to make a ton of mistakes. And like, I don't know if they're really mistakes, but they're just like things you just don't know. Like, and then you're like, oh, feed the baby. Right, you clean the baby. It's looking great. You're on your own. And like, the wife is gone. You're like, okay, I'm crushing this. You take the baby. You put him in the car seat. Right. You go to get some ice cream, whatever you're doing. You go to get a coffee, and you're with the baby. You're like, this is great. And then you're like, wait a sec. You get home. You're like, oh my gosh, the baby pooped right before we left. I didn't even realize it. Now they got this diaper rash, and you're like, what have I done?
Yeah.
But that's just. There's no way you can avoid those things. So the fundamentals apply to everybody. But we all have such beautiful, unique situations. So it's always found it interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Do you you've got 2 kids? Did you always plan on having 2, or were you like, one is it, or did you always plan on family?
I mean, Steph wants an army. Like, she'd have 5 or 6 kids. Me too. No problem.
Yeah. I used to joke a baseball team.
Yeah.
Army sounds a little more tense.
A team.
Nice.
We had Mackenzie, and she was just a dream, to be honest. And Steph was like, let's have 10.
Yeah, let's keep rolling.
And then Ledger came along, and it was a very different experience.
Sure. Ours is exactly the same.
Just chalk and cheese kids, but both lovely and sweet in their own way.
Did you just say chalk and cheese?
Chalk and cheese.
What's that? Was that an expression?
Yeah, it's like completely different.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It just made me think of like a kid's drawing on the sidewalk and eating cheese strings. I'm like, oh, okay. Chalk and cheese kids. All right.
Yeah. No, I think like we're very happy with 2. I think if a third came along, so be it.
Yeah.
We're not planning on it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, we'll see what happens.
See what happens. More pets. Yeah, pets are great. You've currently moved from the big city of Victoria to a smaller, like, local town.
Yeah.
What are some of the pros and cons that you found about big city living, as far as Victoria goes, as big city, to like a smaller town living?
Yeah, I think there's the tranquility that we have, and the silence is something that I never thought I would appreciate as much. Being able to see the stars, we can see the water. We can walk to the water in like 3 or 4 minutes. But something that I really appreciate are our neighbors. They're just like the sweetest.
Nice.
Shirt off their back for you, they're just very kind. They're wonderful with the kids. It's just a very small town kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And Steph grew up in that kind of environment. And I mean, I don't think I've ever met anyone from a small town that's...
It's pretty tough, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it has its challenges. There's more of a drive for work. There's more of a, you can't just walk down the street and get a taco or grab a pint as easily. But I think for the most part, I'm really enjoying the quiet and, having more space for the kids.
Sure.
I do really love Victoria still, but it's changing and being right downtown, and, Steph just wasn't all that comfortable with the city anymore for certain aspects.
Sure.
And just busier.
Yeah.
Busier, more happening, faster pace. People are a little bit more rush, a little bit more time poor, and Yubo's just the complete opposite. So
there's time poor. That's very interesting. We always talk about like house poor or all these other poors, but like, time to me is, I think it's, children give you a crazy perspective on time. I think that's why I love gardening, because it's this great time perspective. I'll say to myself, oh, I would love to eat a plum on the way into my house. So I just went and grabbed a plum tree and put it in my front yard and waited 3 years, and then now I can walk up the steps and just grab a plum. It's cool. And kids, I think, when you start, it's just time is everything, right? How many months, how far apart are the contractions for time? How much is the baby sleeping is also time based. That I found routines were just this beautiful way to take time and organize time, so I have more time. And I've your restaurant was a morning restaurant. My restaurant was an evening restaurant. So I had this lovely blessing to be home with the kids forever. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm thankful to be an entrepreneur, that 9 to 5 isn't really in my wheelhouse, that get to spend all that time with the kids. Because when they go to school, you're like, what? You're taking that one all day? Like, that's mine. I don't want to can I teach it? Yeah.
And there's so many of those days you're like, oh my gosh, when are they going to school? And then it gets close and you're like,
not ready.
That period of time's gone.
Oh, I know. I remember it was COVID when Weston went to school.
Oh, wow.
It was 1 year before.
How was that?
It was 1 year before. She went, no, it wasn't. It was COVID, because we had to drop him off outside the school and just let him walk in. But we had never saw what the inside of the school looked like. Never met teachers, right? You're just like,
wow.
Okay, see you, bud. And he just was his little lunch bag, right, walking into school. It was it was like the cutest thing. It was the hardest thing, but it's weird to get that time back.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's quiet in here. It's an odd feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been wild, because we had Mackenzie in 2020, Ledger in 2022, so COVID was still around. But that was an interesting time to be a parent, mainly for Steph, because she couldn't interact with other mums, couldn't join mothers groups, all that sort of stuff. So I think there was a lot of support missing there. And, with Mackenzie going to school this year, like, we went and saw the school. We went and met the teachers, we met the librarian. They've had these little sort of events to kind of get them used to the building and the people there. And I'm like, that's really thoughtful, and I think that's wonderful. So to not have that and just, drop Weston there, that would have been...
It was trippy.
Yeah.
But there was, for us, there was lots of great things about COVID. Like, we have a big university just at the end of our street. They have a huge parking lot right at the end of our street. And it's a West Coast parking lot, right? Big trees, it's gorgeous. And it was empty for 2 years. So every morning we just get up and go for this long walk. It just felt like we had this, all of a sudden we had this whole playground of like places to go. But I guess I think overall I look at kids through some funny lenses. And I think most of them are how much of a long game it is. that we start off with this intensity, right? Like you said, the front row feelings, right, are really heavy. But then as you sort of go through it and you realize that there's never really like a calm day. Once in a while you get a beauty, but usually it's an up and down. It's, it's ebbs and flows, personalities changing, times, like how hungry are the kids, depends on how their mood is. And then you start to kind of get into this flow of like, oh my gosh, this is like forever, like fingers crossed, right? That this is just going to be how this goes. I have time to learn how to be a dad. I have time to learn how to parent. And it's always great to see people that I love raising babies. It makes me just feel so great.
Cool.
You see lots of people out there that you're like, oh, that's too bad. Maybe being a dad or a parent wasn't for them, or they are stuck in a situation that they're not comfortable in.
Yeah.
So it's always great to see people who love being mums and dads.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just going to say, I think there's nowadays more and more people not wanting to have kids. Which for me, I just couldn't imagine life without children now.
Yeah.
But my sister, for example, she's from day one never wanted kids. She's extremely happy, very career driven. She can jump on a plane and go wherever, and has a beautiful home, and no like handprints on the walls,
sure,
black ink, and
her
crayons
clothes don't have holes in them and stuff.
Yeah,
spills.
Yeah, goldfish crackers like all over the place. But I don't think it is for everybody. But I think for those who are somewhat on the fence, like, you get to that point, it's wonderful. Like, I couldn't recommend it highly enough, and that's coming from someone that was really not all that into it.
Yeah,
years ago.
I find the feedback loop to understanding yourself through your kids is pretty intense. Like, I will catch myself doing something and be like, oh man, why am I doing that? Well, that's interesting. Or why am I making those choices? I think when you're before kids, you're just kind of looking in a mirror all the time. You and your own thoughts. Why did I do this?
Yeah, spot on.
And all of a sudden you've got these kids that will say to you things like, Dad, stop interrupting me. And I'm like, oh, do I do that? And I guess I do. And it comes from a place of I want to get excited with them, but I've caught myself answering their questions or finishing their sentences, and I'm like, and now I realize that they don't like it.
Yeah.
But so you're like, oh, okay, why do I do that? This, and I think ADHD and my wanting to ramble and stuff. So I find it's interesting to look at your kids as like a really great self-help tool, like a real good way to find a new lens to look at things through.
Yeah, and I think there's also a new lens or a new appreciation for your parents. When I had kids, I was just like my mom and dad went through this.
Yeah, those poor little guys. Give them zero credit. Yeah.
So I think that's, mum and I and my stepfather, David, have always been very close, but there was like a new found appreciation for them after having kids. I think. I don't know if you had the same with your parents, but
there's just a million times I called my dad and said, I got another one for you. Sorry that I did this, because now I see, or, I remember when this, looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, you had 3 kids in the back of the car. Like, I have 2 and I'm going crazy back there, I guess that's what it boils down to. There's just such little talk about something that's so important. Yeah. These, like, raising humans, the intensity of the emotions, the ups, the downs.
Yeah.
And like, there's no one that says, hey, you got to do this research before you go make a baby.
Yeah.
There's no one that says, oh, you've made a baby, here's some good foundational fundamental advice. They just go, okay, that human's yours, out you go, see ya. Hospital time's up. And you're like, no, wait a sec, do you know me? Like, I'm not prepared for this. They're like, I don't care, out you go.
Where's the manual?
Yeah, zero. Hey?
No, 100%. Yeah. I remember that first night. That was just like, we're looking at each other going like,
yeah, what are we supposed to do? Does anybody have any tips?
Yeah.
Like, I guess that's what makes it so interesting, is that there's just so much to learn. There's so much that you kind of wish you could unlearn about all the intensity of, like, the preparation, the outcomes of the decisions that you make. I really try to. I think there's a pressure and a feeling of trying just to do it right.
Yep.
And then you realize that there is no doing it right. There's just doing it the best you can with what you've got.
Yep.
Is there anything that you found that you were just innately very good at as a dad? Did you catch yourself going, oh man, I'm pretty good at this part?
Nothing really stands out.
Yeah.
I think something, when the kids were younger, and even now, sometimes I would come home and Steph would be in that kind of panic, fluster, just like, what the hell? Do you know what I mean? And I think I had the ability to chat calmly with her and kind of talk her through.
Regulate a bit.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say talk her through, but just be like, okay, so what do you need? Do you want to walk out for a little bit? Do you want to? And I think just having that, I can't really even articulate it, but just to...
I know where you're coming from. Yeah, being the good counterbalance.
Yeah, but it would be the same as, you know, I'd come home from work and be like, this isn't working, or da-da-da-da, and you're in that fluster, and then you've got that partner that's just like, okay, well, have you thought of this? And it's just having that extra set of eyes that's not in that whirlwind of panic and angst and whatnot. So I think I had the ability to do that, and I think Steph and I just have the ability to offer that for each other, not just with kids. So
yeah, the more we chat with everybody, the better parenting gets.
Yeah,
no doubt
100%.
about it.
What about yourself? Did you anything that you were just like a natural at?
I think just I would say I was just naturally comfortable. Like I looked at them like I guess I felt going in that I was embarrassed about my insecurity or just my lack of knowledge. Like to myself, I was like, oh man, all I did is talk and brag about how you can wait to have kids. Now here you are and you don't know anything. So I just committed to being like the most involved dad ever. And I just realized what that really meant and how that really resulted in a relationship where, because as I was going through it, I was like, oh man, dads aren't invited to these things. Like what? Why wouldn't I be invited to this like ultrasound appointment? You know, why it's my baby just as much as it's Michelle's, you know? And then I think when it was time to like wash the baby or hold the baby or feed the baby, I was like, no, I got it. Like, it's okay. I got this, you know? And
I was definitely the opposite.
Yeah. I was like, hey, man,
I'll stand on the corner.
How do I feed the baby, honey? How do I feed the baby? You know? She's like, oh, the bottle and the vacuum pack the milk. I'm like, okay, let's go. You know, and okay, baby's coming with me. And she's like, okay. You know, and then I just took the baby to the restaurant, right? Just sitting in his vacuuming and how you doing, buddy? You know?
Yeah.
I can remember heating up his milk like on the burner in the back, right? On the big commercial kitchen stove in a little pot with water, and then like sitting in an empty restaurant feeding a baby, watching people walk by, you know. But
so
I
you're
think
comfortable from like.
I just realized
cool.
I think that's sort of like my mantra in life is if something makes you uncomfortable, then just do it, figure it out, you know. If you get, the further you sit on the sidelines, the harder it is. I just remember that from restaurant life when I was a young 19-year-old manager of an Earl's back in the day. And someone would say, oh, table 12 needs a manager. And instantly I'd be like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. Then I realized, well, if I want to do this, I got to know all the questions. So the more questions I know, then the less stressful it will be and the better I can prevent things. And so I felt the same way with the baby. I was like, if I need to feed it, I want to know. I just want to do it. Like, let me I want to do. And the more you do as a dad, I think the more you can put your wife in a state of being comfortable with you. I think a lot of women feel like they have to raise the baby and raise the dad. So I think the more you can show your partner like, no, it is totally cool. I've got this. You know, then it gets more fun. So I enjoyed that part. Yeah, there's lots of things I realize now that I thought I was going to be great at that I'm like, well, this is like my work spot. I got to work on this. A lot of them are, I guess this is what I'm just learning now. It's the opposite. Like you want to show your kids as much love and compassion and support you can. And I do that to the nth degree. But when it comes to like punishing or saying no, or you did this wrong, I don't like it when I see hurt in their eyes. I'll try to find ways to tell them, oh man, it's okay. Like, don't worry. Like this was wrong, but let's talk about it. And I think now you're seeing that, they want a bit more. They want a bit more consequences, understanding, you know? So it's always this game of learning and adjusting. Yeah,
no, totally. And yeah, that's something I definitely try to work on is, you know, if I'm getting agitated by the kids and they're not listening or whatnot, I have to be very conscious to be like, okay, if I'm going to tell them to do something, I need to deliver it in the right tone, explain why, where previously it would have been a bit more of a higher tone, do this, do that. But it's like, that's probably not necessarily the best way to do things.
We'll find out in the long run. I love you, buddy.
Mate,
so great
appreciate
to have you.
So good to see you. Yeah,
Thanks
pleasure.
for being on the podcast.
Absolute pleasure.